We replace God, Jesus, whatever the figurehead of whatever, controlling authoritarian religion we're trying to come out of, we replace it with the universe. And we make it this cute, pink, rose quartz, crystal. I don't know a lot about crystals, but, we make it this cute, unicorn, Lisa Frank-ish type world. But beneath that is a lot of the same issue that I took with the religion that I grew up in. There's nothing out there trying to get you, to teach you lessons and to discipline you, and because what you want is wrong. My mother has a terminal brain tumor, like I've said many times. God didn't send that. The universe didn't send that. It's no different than religion. It's all self-abandonment. I'm going to break my genetic destiny. I'm going to break the generational curses. I'm going to break this pattern that exists, for so many people before me, and that will unfortunately continue for so many people down the line. I want this, and I'm gonna sit in that, and I'm gonna sit in the thought of that, and I'm gonna dream about it. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna feel like I'm getting goosebumps right now. And in fact, I've yelled at God and I've yelled at the universe many, 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 many times that if what I have, come into alignment with within myself and what I want and what I desire, if I can't have that and it's gonna take from me and it's gonna rob me of what means most to me for its purpose and its will, I'll take myself out. I'm not playing the game. I'm not going to be, a chess piece in this, little game that it's got going on. Not interested. I'm a free agent. And if that's not how it can be, then I just assume not be here. And slowly over the next few months, I developed full-blown agoraphobia, which is not the fear of people. It's not the fear of socializing. It's literally the fear of panic. So you avoid situations, and slowly it evolves, and each time that's triggered in a new setting, around a new person, during a new activity, your brain logs that, and your world shrinks until you have nothing left but living in the house, staying indoors. But even that shrinks. You have no idea how small your world can get. Good morning, guys. I wanted to hop on here and talk about something that just sparked in my mind. Here I am with bedhead, bedbeard, holy pajama shirt. Just finished up breakfast, so impromptu, we're just kind of going with it. So I've seen, not so much recently, but there was a trend for a long time that I was noticing on YouTube and other platforms about this New Age to Jesus movement. And I don't know why that popped up in my head this morning. And I started thinking about my own journey and how the reverse, in a way. I just want to start off by saying I think very little and have very little respect for Christianity specifically, but any religion that I believe is a tool to seek power and dominion over others and rob them of their autonomy. I have very little respect for those practices when they're practiced in that manner. But this video is not going to be to bash anyone or bash their beliefs and put anyone down. I'll get into it. Anyways, so yeah, this New Age to Jesus movement that I noticed, and I'd watch these videos and just kind of roll my eyes and, because because the difference with those videos is that it was a complete bashing of any other view outside of this need for salvation, and this need to retreat from the devil and from Satan and from all of his tools, you know, his tarot, his crystals, you know, on and on. So my story, I grew up heavily religious in the evangelical Christian church, heavily indoctrinated from a very young age. I have memories as an infant of being held up in the air by my mother during worship services, and prayed over, and, you know, people babbling in tongues and, you know, the like. So those are my roots, and they run really deep. So that's how I grew up. It was quite traumatic. It was quite tormenting my entire life. And then as I grew up and became an adult, and, you know, moved away from, you know, the family that was practicing that, and you know, the small town and that mentality that, you know, was so pervasive in the culture where I lived, I started to expand pretty slowly, and Christianity never sat right with me. Even as a child, it was a source of ick to me. It really disturbed me. The entire premise, all of it. It caused a lot of trauma in my childhood years. So I grow up, I'm slowly opening up to a more fluid version of what I had grown up into, that, you know, Jesus was cool, he was a rebel, he was a, you know, a man of the people, and, you know, he wasn't the way you guys, you know, say he is, and this isn't the way that, you know, Christianity isn't what you guys make of it. And, you know, so it started there, and then my life abruptly changed due to some decisions that I made for myself, my partner and I, that we made for ourselves to really change our lives. Left the careers that we were in, you know, just started to think of and explore a brand new way of living. And kind of in the middle of that, I was suddenly hit with what I refer to as my spiritual awakening. And that first came in the, I don't know, I'm gonna tell the you know, the zealots, the secrets, and I'm gonna enforce their narratives here, but it slowly crept in through YouTube. I started seeing these motivational videos, but they were murky in their content. Like, were they spiritual? Were they not spiritual? Like, you know, what are they talking about? And it quickly morphed into what you would call New Age spirituality. Now, I have never considered myself full on, all in New Age spiritual, but I was dabbling in these different, you know, mindsets and ideas and modalities of connecting with, you know, this source above us. So, you know, it got into things like Abraham Hicks, who's channeling a form of consciousness, and tarot videos, and, you know, different things like that. And I was like, wow, you know, this really feels, you know, good to me in a way that Christianity definitely did not, and that nothing ever has in the past. So, but again, I wasn't fully bought into I don't know how to explain it. It was like, okay, this feels homey, but it doesn't, not my house. I guess that's the best analogy, metaphor. I get those intertwined, mixed up. So that went on for years. And this happened during a time, like I said, when my life was changing and my ideals in life were changing. They were expanding rapidly. I wanted things and expected things of life that I never dreamt that I would, and was just expecting this pivotal change to happen to where my life would not resemble anything that it had in the past. And so this new age messaging of, all this fun, airy energy and abundance, and, this ethereal, the universe, this universe that, just loves us and gives and gives and gives, that felt great and really in line with what I was choosing for myself and moving toward in my life. So it went on for years. Well, I shouldn't say years. It went on for a good period. And then I hit that period that we all know in the spiritual community, the dark night of the soul, what I would call it. I was working what I knew to be a temporary job. For me, it was a temporary job at the time. I was walking through this big office building and I just got hit out of nowhere with the first panic attack that I ever had in life. And I thought that I had had panic attacks before because I've been an anxious person since an infant, like I said, since I can remember. I have had horrible, debilitating anxiety, physical anxiety, anxiety attacks, I suppose, rather than panic attacks. But you think you've had a panic attack until you've had a panic attack. And that moment once again changed my life. And slowly over the next few months, I developed full-blown agoraphobia, which is not the fear of people. It's not the fear of socializing. It's literally the fear of panic. So you avoid situations, and slowly it evolves, and each time that's triggered in a new setting, around a new person, during a new activity, your brain logs that, and your world shrinks until you have nothing left but living in the house, staying indoors. But even that shrinks. You have no idea how small your world can get. My world got so small that I was confined to a mattress in my living room, and or the couch, because I could not physically walk the distance between the bedroom and the living room, and I could not walk the distance between the living room and the bathroom. I came up with some pretty creative ways to avoid having to move at all. And if I did have to move, sometimes it came down to crawling on my hands and knees, because I thought that if I stood, that I was going to have a stroke, a heart attack, some sort of event, and die immediately. That is how small your world can get when you are in the throes of panic, health, anxiety, and agoraphobia. So I'm going through this period, this dark night of his soul, and just really wrestling with my mental health, with my spiritual health, with trying to deconstruct, the source of this fear and what I believed was causing, these panic attacks. So I was in that deep state of it for around a year to a year and a half, until I was forced to move, literally move, get up, walk, move, and also move houses during COVID. And that's what led me back home, just as a temporary landing spot until we decided, okay, what are we gonna do next? And then we'll move on. Here we are going on 4 years later. My mother has a terminal brain tumor. that story has been told in my previous videos and will continue to expand. So here I am, background, the same people, the same town, the same mentality. My mother, the true source of the, indoctrination into evangelical Christianity. And that was extremely triggering for me. It all started to bubble back up. It all started to seep out of my pores, and it's like I kept cleansing and wiping and trying to get rid of it, and kept trying to dive into my own beliefs and my own spirituality and my own spiritual practice to, really solidify and figure out where I was at. So that period lasted then another year or two. And I, in the midst of being back in the environment that made me so unwell spiritually and mentally, started to have yet another one of these periods of, oh my God, of deconstruction, of dark night of the soul. And that I realized that I hadn't necessarily, but the community that I was participating in, a lot of it really is just spiritually bypassing and circumventing. We replace God, Jesus, whatever the figurehead of whatever, controlling authoritarian religion we're trying to come out of, we replace it with the universe. And we make it this cute, pink, rose quartz, crystal, I don't know a lot about crystals, but, we make it this cute, unicorn, Lisa Frank-ish type world. But beneath that is a lot of the same issue that I took with the religion that I grew up in. So, rather than God, like I said, or Jesus, that saves us from our own depravity, and, we need this salvation, and we need to be, fighting off this enemy that lives among us, and, in the seen and the unseen realm, this New Age was the same thing, just rebranded. If you wanted something, well, no, I'm sorry, you can't have that because the universe doesn't think that that's going to be the best thing for you. And, okay, you can maybe have it, but the universe is going to throw you tests. It's going to wreck your relationships. It's going to kill off a parent. It's going to kill off a pet. It's going to kill off a friend. But don't worry, it's all for to teach you a lesson, to get you ready for this thing that you want. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude, this is just as disempowering and pervasive and psychosis inducing as this religion that I've detached myself from. So I'm like, this felt like I said, this felt like a house, but it definitely is not my home. This is not my home. So over the years, and what I think I'm finally starting to emerge from, absolutely do not identify with New Age spirituality. I use some of the terminology and I interact with some of the modalities, but I am in no way endorsing that as the way, the truth, that, So the point I've arrived at now is that, and what's always felt the best to me, living under someone else or something else's will has made me physically ill my entire life. That's just not something that I can accept, not something that I want to participate in. In fact, I've yelled at God and I've yelled at the universe many, 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 many times that if what I have, come into alignment within myself and what I want and what I desire, if I can't have that and it's gonna take from me and it's gonna rob me of what means most to me for its purpose and its will, I'll take myself out. I'm not playing the game. I'm not gonna be a chess piece in this, little game that it's got going on. Not interested. I'm a free agent, and if that's not how it can be, then I just assume not be here. And hey, that's been a pretty dark realization, reconciliation, and place to live for years and years, when you feel like, okay, you're toying with something that has, these ideas and these ideals for you, and you've told it that you're not playing its game. So, when's the bolt gonna hit? And the bolt hasn't hit. So where I've arrived now, I guess you could say it's some form of spiritually, scientifically agnosticism, question mark. I'm not one for terms or labels like that, just because I just feel that things are too confining, and I like to leave, soft borders for expansion and change and development. But that said, I believe that we exist within a matrix. I say the word matrix as in an intertwined, like interwoven, unseen web around us. What the source of that is, I don't know. Is it spiritual? Is it scientific? Is it a consciousness, a single point of consciousness? Because if you think about the way that the universe apparently evolved, and that we, came to be, is at a single point, then split and split and split, and and expanded and expanded and expanded, and here we are. So I loosely embrace and endorse this idea that we live within a field. That's the word I was looking for, not matrix necessarily, a field. And this is scientifically proven, that we have a field around us of energy, from our heart, from our nervous system, that we have a field. It's unseen, but it's somehow still attached to us, and we have influence, outside of our bodies within this field. So I believe that field is bigger. And so, we all carry a certain, perimeter range of field until we run into someone else's, or, I don't know. I believe that, nature itself has a field. And so in a way, we are all connected to, into one, source. And I believe that within this field, there are an infinite number of potentialities, possibilities, kind of floating, kind of held there in this ether, if you will. And there are a couple of ways to interact with it and to experience it. There's conscious and there's unconscious. Now, the unconscious would be what most of us are, trapped in. That's the matrix. Is this when all of our fields merge, and everything around us, we're all participating and interacting with the energy fields around us, and the thought fields and the thought forms and ideas. That's what makes up the total sum of mass consciousness. And unfortunately, because of the way that society has developed, it's developed in a hierarchy and patriarchy. I don't want to dive too much into that, but these ideals and these power structures and these economic structures in place, it's based on lack, limitation. It's based on being very closed up and sheltered and self-centered. Self-centered in a bad way. There's absolutely a positive way to be self-centered. So it's grown and grown and grown. That idea has spread and spread and spread and spread. And if you look at, of course, through history, what has happened? There have been, crusades, and nations and people and culture has been erased and conquered and whitewashed. It's been spiritually washed. It's been sucked up and controlled by religion. So we move in a direction long enough, and that's where we arrive at mass consciousness. And that's why most of us have the same interactions, experiences, and expectations with this field that we just call existence and life. And that's why so many people fall into the same cycles of despair, dis-ease, lack, poverty, the list goes on and on and on. And then that's the unconscious way of experiencing that. So then there's the conscious, when you take back your power to influence the field itself and to emit what it is that you've consciously decided that you want to experience in your life. And when you get disciplined and focused enough to change your expectation energetically. And this might also sound crazy and woo-woo to you, but this is what I have experienced in my own life. And that's why I've arrived at the conclusions that I've arrived at. Not because, some guru or whatever. Gurus, God, don't even get me started on them. Or these, people selling courses and manifestation classes and yada, yada, yada. And those people are not all bad. There are some that are extremely well-meaning and that truly do help people shift their energy, their ideal, and at least they're part of the path to maybe expanding out of what people have just been trained to expect to arrive in their interaction with mass consciousness. But that conscious way of interacting is knowing, okay, I have my own field that's connected to this field of infinite possibility and potentiality, and I want this, and I'm gonna sit in that, and I'm gonna sit in the thought of that, and I'm gonna dream about it, I'm gonna talk about it, I'm gonna feel it, I'm gonna feel like I'm getting goosebumps right now. That's where I've arrived, that I want to be the operant power in my life. I do not believe, even if there is a point of consciousness that has expanded and created all that we see around us, I do not believe that point of consciousness peers in on our lives and has its own agenda or will for our lives. I think that arriving here and being alive and remembering, whether it's where we came from or that we do have agency and power in our lives, to me, that's purpose enough, and that's spiritual enough to me. It doesn't have to be any bigger than that. It doesn't have to be any Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings garbage that Christianity and other religions and even New Age spirituality are obsessed with, that there's this this light and this dark and this duality, and we've got to experience death things are the way that they are, because of what we believe, because of mass consciousness. People get sick, people age, people die, people get into accidents, things happen because I don't really care to dive in and try to sort out, well, why? I did for years and years and years so that I could avoid. And that's part of spiritual psychosis. That's part of untreated mental health, problems and OCD, pure OCD, PTSD, CPTSD. There's nothing out there trying to get you, to teach you lessons and to discipline you, and because what you want is wrong. Think of all of the terrible, awful people that get what they want. Whether it's money, power, whether it's I want that person dead. You really think that this source thinks, well, that's part of the... No, that's bullshit. It's bullshit. It just is the way it is. And we have two choices. We can either continue to participate in that, and then spiritually circumvent it somehow in our head using religion or New Age spirituality. Or we can just say, you know what? There's stuff that happens, there's stuff that's going on. I'm not going to involve myself too heavily in that, and I'm going to make choices for myself. I'm going to make decisions about what I want from this experience and what I want to attract to myself from this field of infinite potentiality. I'm going to take the negative things that happen, like my mother, her brain tumor. My mother has a terminal brain tumor, like I've said many times. God didn't send that. The universe didn't send that. If you look at that and think, okay, well, yeah, God sent that, because I'm one of the primary, victims in what's happening to my mother. My mother was just a chess piece in a game to teach me some sort of lesson. Like, does that make any, really? But some people believe crap like that. And they believe that some people are just walking around the earth and they're just NPCs, and that doesn't matter whether they fall off a cliff or get hit by a bus or whatever, because that was just their purpose. And really, guys, okay, if that's the way that you want to live and believe and interact with life, then that's perfectly fine. And I know I said I wasn't gonna get into dogging on and ridiculing people's beliefs, because you're here and you're free to believe what you want, because there's nothing outside of you deciding for you what you have to believe, and that what you believe is wrong, or it's going to punish you, send you horrible tests of fate, or eternal suffering in hell. There's none of that going on. So that's the point that I've arrived at. I'm the decision maker in my life. Yes, things happen. Yes, my mother is sick. How the hell did that happen? Will anyone know? Does anyone know? I don't know. I'm not going to dive into that. I'm not going to then take that on and expect, well, my mom died of a brain tumor and, things run in families, so then I'm going to be... Maybe I will. I don't know, but I'm not going to get bent out of shape and get into my anxiety cycle and get into my health anxiety cycle about that. I'm going to make new decisions for myself. I'm going to break my genetic destiny. I'm going to break the generational curses. I'm going to break this pattern that exists, for so many people before me, and that will unfortunately continue for so many people down the line. But I'm going to be a link breaker and at least break the chain, in my part of it. And I'm going to take what's going on because it's going on, and there's no sense fighting with it. You only move through it. And I'm leaving space for, I say terminal brain tumor, but I'm leaving space for something else. I'm leaving space for supernatural healing. The body is an amazing, amazing, scientific, spiritual, magical vessel. And so I'm leaving space for something higher and something better to come of this. And whatever direction it goes, whenever that happens, it's something I'll carry forward with me, not in grief, not in guilt, not in pain, not in disempowerment, but to create impactful change in the world going forward, and to influence and to have a way of understanding and interacting with people and interacting with the world that, you know, is different than it was before. So you give purpose to things. No one sent my mother and me and my family a brain tumor for a purpose. I'm going to extract purpose from that and use it in things and use it in ways to change my life and to change other people's lives. I'm not going to crusade against brain cancer for the rest of my life. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to involve myself with that. That would be me choosing that brain cancer is this horrible malady that's unavoidable until we, you know, conquer it. Just like Christians are constantly babbling about the devil, it's always going to be there until we conquer it. Your belief in something is the only thing that keeps it in existence in your life. And that's, I'm not trying to spiritually circumvent by saying that cancers and brain tumors don't exist, but I'm just not going to place my focus there and rail against and fight against that. What am I going to take from this and do? I'm going to take the experience that I had, how terrible, traumatic, and disempowering it was within this mass consciousness, because it's all about profit. It's all about self-centered, selfish, abandoning, you know, mentality. That's the way it is. So I already have a lot of philanthropic organizations and ideas dreamt up, and this is just going to impact and influence those things and the ways that I operate them and the missions for those things. Because again, I'm not going to crusade against brain cancer for the rest of my life, but I'm going to say, you know what? I felt such a disempowering burden when I was going through that situation in my life with my mom. What can I do to take that burden off of other people? To free people of the burden so that they can breathe first and engage with what they need to engage with, and engage with the people that they need to engage with, and to feel loved and supported themselves so that they can then give love and support to the people around them. Because what better way to fight dis-ease than with feelings of light and love and support and ease and comfort and comedy and prosperity and choice, and the list goes on. So that's what I'm going to take from that. That's what, like, if we want to think about this new age and shifting, like, shift your vibration to be in alignment with what it is that you desire. And people just, my God, and I've fallen victim to this, they fall into these deep traps and holes of, oh my God, 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 my energy, my aura, my field, my vibration, my whatever. And so then they're stuck in this perpetual loop of, it's no different than religion. It's all self-abandonment. It is all self-abandonment. And that is what felt so gross and so literally vomit-inducing within me my entire life, is that it calls you to self-abandon. So you have to come back to yourself, and you have to sit with yourself, and you have to foster within, you know, what is it that I want? What is it that I want? And shifting your vibration, like, yes, I believe in that, and but not on the terms of the new age spirituality. I've been doing it my entire life, I just didn't realize it. My favorite thing to do some of the worst times of my life, when I had nothing and nobody, was chronically ill myself, working 2 jobs to pay $20, $30, $40,000 in medical bills every year, was to just put on music, lay back in a recliner, look at the beautiful sky, Arizona sky, and watch planes fly over, because planes are my favorite thing in the world, and traveling is my favorite thing in the world. And I didn't know it, but I would just sit there and I would just drift off into this peaceful place, and I would daydream, and I would think about all the things that I was going to do for myself, and all the things that I was going to do for my family, and all the ways that I was going to be successful and prosperous and abundant, and I was going to free myself of, you know, all the chains that bound me and all the chains that had bound my family for years and years and years and years. And that shifted something in me, and it shifted my expectation. And so then I started to want more and expect more. And my life changed. It did. It drastically changed. But I didn't realize why it changed at the time. And so I kept just fighting and pushing and trying to climb and trying to force and trying to, you know, maneuver and strategize and, you know, build my career in this field and then try this field and build. But I didn't realize that that's not what changed my life. What changed my life was kicking back, listening to music, watching the clouds and the planes go by, and just thinking of the potential of life. And that's the cool thing, is that if you look at life, the world, the universe as a field of infinite potentiality, and you just think, what could I pull out of that? What could I pull to me out of that field? Or, you know, hey, this is possible. In that field of infinite, this is possible. And just thinking about that possibility and thinking about how that's what they're talking about. That's what Abraham Hicks is talking about. That's what all these new age gurus, that's what all these, you know, people are talking about. It's the daydreaming. It's the daydreaming to the delusional point where that becomes your everyday go-to program. Not to disengage with the world around you, but to have that going on in your head, and to have that expectation, and to have those conversations flowing, you know, with the people around you that support that, and that support you and support your dizziest daydreams. And that's where I have found the biggest results in my life. And I got lost from that for a while. And what has resulted, and what I'm experiencing now, and what is around me, whew. And it's hard to get out of, I'm not gonna lie. It's hard to get out of when you're living in the mud. It's hard to sit there and wipe the mud off of you when you're still in the mud pit. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Hopefully some of you can relate to that. Maybe some of you are in a place where your spiritual beliefs are still in development. They're deconstructing, they're reconstructing, they're whatever it is. I believe that there's space for all of it. There is ultimately one truth, but there are many, many modalities, and that's the thing. Religion is fine when it's used as a modality for you to connect into your highest ideals. New Age spirituality, tarot, astrology, whatever it is, crystals, on and on and on. Those things are fine when they are used as modalities. But when they're used as the source of the connection, or the source of power, or then you've self-abandoned. you've self-abandoned. Those things should only be a way in which you physically express and experience your connection to whatever it is you believe is around us. And it does not matter. It does not matter ultimately what you believe, because we're all going to find out maybe at some point that there's one truth. And it doesn't matter, how we connect into that. But what I will say is that anything that's been mistranslated in religion, that makes us believe that we are inherently bad and that we inherently need salvation, anything that causes you to self-abandon is probably not rooted in truth. It is not connected to anything good or a source of life expansion, prosperity, health, and well-being. I'm sorry, it just isn't. I could go on and on and on, but I won't. So again, I hope that maybe this connected with some of you that are, on similar journeys, and we may be going in the same direction, we may be going in the opposite direction. That ultimately doesn't matter, because, if I went this way and you went this way, but we both find the same thing, which is we come home to ourselves and we come home to our peace and we come home to our, our positive outlook and our positive expectations and our transformation in life, then we both win and we both arrived at the same truth. We just had a different way of getting there, and we just have a different modality of experiencing that and interacting with it. So, I'll leave it there. I hope you found something in all of this babbling that was of value and of comfort. And I will be back whenever this spark of rambling about something else reappears. So have a great rest of the week and weekend if I don't see you before then. Take care. Bye.